Tesla shares adding roughly 25% just this month as Elon Musk wraps up his time as a special government employee. Joining us now with more on what's next for the EV maker, Colin Rusch, Oppenheimer senior research analyst. It's something for everybody, Colin, in these numbers. If you look at the full year, a one-year move, it's 103%. Stock has doubled. However, since the president took office, down about 16% at this point. Let's take a lot of this off the table now. I don't know about reputation and all that things. Let's talk about June 12th and that launch in Austin of the robotaxi. Is that what everyone's focused on?
Without question, and that's the future of this company. The real value here is their leadership in physical AI and autonomous vehicles. And what we're expecting is a very modest launch that they'll have, a dozen or a couple dozen cars on the road. Operating, as a, autonomous vehicle fleet. We do think they're going to claim victory on that, and that there's going to be, a very aggressive effort by the company to go through learning cycles with those vehicles on the road. That at the end of the day is going to be the future of the company. And the pace of that learning is going to really determine whether they are the leader or they're a follower here in the technology.
What do we know about just what we used to think of as the business of Tesla, just deliveries? Is it it was disappointing, I guess, recently. Does it matter anymore?
I think the real benchmark for most investors is whether the company remains cash flow positive. If they're able to continue to at least run at break-even cash levels, I think most of the bullish investors will look at the technology potential and look at the track record of the company of creating value for investors and remain involved. If they start burning cash, that's a real canary in the coal mine for us, and I think a lot of folks on the company. At this point, though, there's some real concerns around, legitimate performance with drivers out in a variety of conditions, including inclement weather, as well as some complex scenarios where the vehicle has to look around multiple variables on the road. And I think how those vehicles perform in the field here over the next 3 to 6 months will have a very big weight on how the stock performs over the next several quarters.
As time passes, and he goes back to being Elon Musk, the businessman, the innovator and entrepreneur, and not the special government employed. And is he totally separated now from that perception? Is the reputational damage he got with certain sectors, is that repairable? And will there be a time when you say, well, that was Elon Musk 6 months ago, we're not mad at him anymore? That group of those individuals that were keying Teslas and firebombing dealerships?
I think there's certainly some folks in the middle of the political spectrum that will look past that period of time. But I think there's certainly folks on the left that will no longer participate in any sort of commercial activity with Tesla here going forward. I think there's some, deep permanent damage with a lot of folks on the left. Whether that hinders the company's growth or not is not, over the long term, isn't quite determined yet here. I think there is a big enough market for them to grow into. But I do think it limits the ultimate, scope and scale of the business, where he was universally respected and loved across both sides of the aisle for a period of time, and I think that time is now permanently over.
Very good. All right, and some of the other, I don't know if they're promises, but forecasts from Elon Musk about we'll see what happens with Austin, but they're supposed to sell a lot of these cars next year, aren't they? And is that going to happen?
I think TBD, what we've seen with the new product launches is that, since the Model 3 and Model Y, it's been disappointing. And so, as they continue to work on cost reduction and improved performance, we do think that they have to do a pretty meaningful refresh on the underlying platform to really drive incremental sales. And I think they have it within the organization to do that, but it's a big challenge, especially as they're rolling out this autonomous vehicle platform.